Okay, gather around everyone, because I've got some things to discuss with you all. I had a lot of thoughts during the Goddess Fall event, as I'm sure we all did. But there's one individual that I've had so many thoughts that I needed a video itself. Because honestly, the more I thought about things, the more terrified I became. And I want to bounce ideas off you all to see if, once I explain everything, you think the same. Of course, I am talking about Mirror, who, as we know,
I implanted my own personality data into the corruption code and modified it to have the subject think in the same manner as a rapture.
Is the personality data of Red Shoes put into the corruption code and then refined by the Rapture Queen. However, dare I say it, I think Mirror, despite being essentially the same person personality-wise as Red Shoes, is much worse. And I think it can be attributed to why everybody called Red Shoes Red Sus in the beginning. You see, Red Shoes had a pretty big flaw. Red Shoes had to talk to Cinderella and basically out herself as the mastermind. But truth be told, I mean, Oswald might have found out eventually, but as far as Red Shoes' own team, she could have gotten away with it scot-free if she didn't say anything. Mirror seems to have learned that lesson well.
Do you know the one thing I learned from my base personality data? Never lose your patience, and never take matters into your own hands at critical moments.
When Red Shoes said corruption was her own creation, we all attributed all the people who were corrupted in the future to be a part of Red Shoes' crimes. Although, funny enough, it seems Mirror is actually much more responsible, because if you go back to when Cinderella's in that mirror room, you hear Mirror speaking for the first time, and we get a sense on what this corruption code AI being is.
It's not important who you are.
Trying to see if I recognize the voice.
Kill everyone who resembles you. Deceive them, mock them, and tell me of your own accord that you accept your true mission. Then the wall will disappear, and you will kill the goddesses.
Honestly, with the laughter that we had, and considering that someone like Enoch is also an AI, I'm gonna consider this a real being, alright? Which, on that note, Mirror is also the one every single person who's been corrupted had to go through what Cinderella did. Chatterbox confirmed it.
In reality, your consciousness remains intact.
Oh, don't I know it by now?
However, you have no control over what you say or do.
That, to me, even if you consider Red Shoes and Mirror to be the same person, Red Shoes is the cause, but Mirror is the one who actually did the deed. I think that distinction is key, but to go back to my first point, besides that, the main difference, and I think the scary thing is, Mirror took Red Shoes' lesson to heart. Because what we find out in this event is that Mirror is responsible for the first arc of the game, and yet we didn't know.
So, I took it upon myself to make a queen. Then, I tried a little of this and that. Fortunately, a queen came into being. That's why I want to make Marion the queen, no matter what it takes.
All the actions that happened, we focused on Chatterbox and Moderni, of course. But we never knew that there was a mastermind that intentionally made Marion into a rapture for the purpose of being a queen. And something that's also important to note, Marion, both as a Nikke and as a heretic, is a genuine person. But the Modernia personality was not. Once again, every Nikke that goes to the corruption, Mirror is the one that does that. In other words, the Modernia personality was one that Mirror wanted. Because if you remember, Red Shoes said,
Are you saying you want to infect all Nikkes?
Yes.
her main goal was to corrupt all Nikkes, which to me means death of every other human that exists, because if you can't join the Raptures, there's no use for you. And plus, corrupted Nikkes would have taken them out anyways. So here's the question. The burning thing that was in my mind through this event is, if Mirror's responsible for the first arc of the game, is she responsible for more? Has there been this master manipulator causing a lot of events that we didn't know about? And maybe a lot of events is a stretch, but there are two things that I'm concerned about. One, I feel 90% certain it is the case. For those watching my channel, I mentioned this in passing, but there was a deal between Enoch, the AI of the Ark, and Chatterbox.
I was in communication with Chatterbox. Ever since its construction, the Ark has never once been invaded by Raptures. It's believed this is because the location of the Ark has never been discovered. That is not the case. The Raptures have known the Ark's location for a very long time. Chatterbox made a deal with me. In exchange for him not attacking the Ark, I was to periodically provide him with Nikkes. I therefore select Nikkes on a random basis and implant the corruption code sent by Chatterbox. I then manipulate the barrier and have them sent up to the surface. If you say so. There is currently a substantial gap in strength between Raptures and humans. If we were to face them head-on, we would have a 0% chance of success.
And when I first heard that, I was horrified, but then I also was wondering, what's the purpose? And you know, for a long time, that just kind of faded in the background for me. I thought it was weird and I wanted to know more about what Chatterbox was doing, but now I have all the pieces I need. I have seen the hierarchy of the Raptures. It seems to me the Queen obviously is the one in charge, except Siren has blocked the Queen's signal from communicating with any of the Raptures. Then the next up would be Liberalia. But Liberalia states the Raptures have no interest in humanity, which doesn't match with the deal that Enoch has. And I truly do believe if Liberalia wanted the Ark destroyed, Liberalia could have done it. I believe that's why we saw that massive tidal wave destroy a fake Ark. That easily could have been the real one. So if Liberalia doesn't want that, Indivilia was captured, and Nihilister only went in there to free Indivilia and Chatterbox with the main cause of being free from the Queen, then something doesn't make sense. Why does this deal exist? Can you all see where I'm going with this? Red Shoes, in order to make the corruption code, experimented on a lot of Nikkes in order to see how she could get it to control them, betray their friends and family and all that stuff, and then she would cut them open and study their brains afterwards, seeing what the result was. I've never seen Chatterbox do any real experimentation with Nikkes. But Mirror?
You want the Queen's recognition? And to hear her voice, don't you?
Fine. I'll be careful.
No, that's his biggest wish.
Was that not enough?
No, it's actually not. What else can we take?
Now, you're coming after my dreams.
I am saying that Chatterbox made this deal with the Ark not because he wanted it, but because it was something Mirror wanted in order to make a new queen. And of course, it would be dangerous for Mirror themselves to interact with Enoch, especially if Enoch still has data on the old tales. So make a go-between. Very little risk then of it getting back to Mirror. Have Chatterbox do all the dirty work for Mirror's plans, so that way, no one knows. And that's what I think is terrifying. Beside the point that the whole reason Enoch, the master control AI of the Ark, even thinks there's a significant threat is because of Mirror. The only one who said, hey, we will destroy the Ark if you don't do this, is Mirror. Not the other heretics. And not the Queen, because the Queen couldn't talk to anybody due to Siren's block. I mean, the Queen could just move out the way, but it was Mirror that was putting so much fear in the Ark. And I was thinking, if Mirror did this, what else could they be responsible for? Such as the Deep. There's still a lot we don't know about them, but considering that Red Shoes was a part of VTC before.
I realize it may sound absurd for a top researcher at VTC and high-ranking priest to say this.
And why Nayuta even has interactions with Mirror to begin with. This is the one I'm not as certain about, but Mirror having something to do with the Deep members. I wonder if that might be why Nayuta calls them a den of evil. And Nayuta's already doing some shady stuff, so that means something. Particularly, I'm wondering about the part where they made more of the Queen's blood. That's a good point.
In the past, a single drop of her blood fell down to the surface.
Really?
The Profound multiplied it.
Did they?
Arrogant, foolish things.
I see.
They failed to comprehend Mother's blood and left it unattended.
Now that we've seen what the Four Beasts have done, it seems like that would be beneficial in making a new queen. They might not even know what it is without Mirror's help, and Mirror's help would also explain how they were able to advance so far. And like I said, that one I'm not as sure about, but that's the problem. So many events in the Ark's history that are unexplained, it could all end up being a part of Mirror's master plan. Which, on that note, the final thing, Mirror hasn't been in the main story yet. So far, both times we've seen Mirror, we've had casualties. I don't even know what circumstance would come about that Mirror would introduce themselves to us. Mirror can really just hide from us forever. But I am significantly worried about when Mirror does join the main story, which could be these upcoming chapters, I don't know, how things will change. Because if there's one thing we do know, they are literally the embodiment of corruption. Me personally, I've said it in the Goddess Fall event a lot, but for someone who likes puppeteering, Pinocchio, assuming Pinocchio is actually a rapture, I am very worried about that, especially considering what another Pinocchio reference went through, or there's the fact that Mirror can also revive people even without a core. Tell me, where's Pina's body? Dorothy could tell on the cruise ship that wasn't Pina, but what if the real one comes, revived by Mirror? What would Dorothy do then? And if that Pina is saying, I want the Ark destroyed? I don't want to go on further than that. So with that said, does everybody see why I think this is such a terrifying event? I'm curious to see what you all have to say. So please post your thoughts down in the comments below about this. But one last thing. Someone actually left a question of the day that I wanted to use in the Goddess Fall event, but I figured I might as well do it here. I don't normally add it in discussion videos because the discussion videos, that's part of the discussion, but it works. So here's the winner, and here's their question of the day. And when people suggest a question of the day, I gotta answer it. So let me make this very clear, all right? If Mirror is responsible for everything I'm thinking, the amount of hatred I would have for this character, I think would match any other that I would have in. I mean, I already thought it reached that point, to be honest. Not to mention, I think Mirror will be here for a long time. I don't even know how do you beat code, especially if the corruption code is just within every Rapture, really. I feel like they may not make Mirror a playable character. There may just be some characters that we have in the story that are never used. But I will say, it does not escape my notice that if they did put Mirror in the game, that Mirror would probably be... The idle poses and shooting poses might be one of the best. And I would be lying if I say I wasn't curious on how they incorporate the red shoes themselves. Of course, that also would mean that Mirror would have made a physical body, which is another reason of why I'm wondering how would that even come about. So to answer your question, I think I would be incredibly curious if we did have Mirror in the game. Some people would make Mirror their profile picture. Some people would have positive reactions. I would want to know who those people are. And I'll confess, it might get me at first, but after that initial surprise, Mirror's going right to the bottom of my list if that ever happened. So basically, half of me loathes the idea, but the other half of me can't help but be curious on the chaos that would cause, or how they would even implement someone like Red Shoes to begin with, because there's really no other person. I mean, sure, we got melee fighters, but swords, not legs. If you had to ask, I think that part of me would win out. The curious part of me, just because she's summonable doesn't mean I have to have her on my team. Also, I get the worrying feeling that if Mirror was a character, that means there is a bond, and I don't know. No, unless we get tricked. Oh, you know what? Shoot, that's true. If we interact, if Mirror approaches us, and the old tails are not near us, there's always the option of trying to do a honey okay, you know what? Shoot, I would hate for Mirror to... The last thing, the worrying thing about Mirror, only Nayuta and the old tails know them. Eden, most of the Ark, and of course us, the counter team, have no idea who this person is, which means Mirror can do a lot. Either way, with that said, please everyone post your thoughts about this entity down in the comments below. And I will see you all for whatever video I have next up in the series next time.